He stood face to face with the man who ruined his life. But instead of anger, he chose something far more powerful: forgiveness. And what happened next? It amazed everyone, including the man he forgave. Headphones subscribe to Minutes of Moral for true inspired stories that prove kindness and grace can change lives. Like, comment, and share to spread these powerful messages. Jared was only 24 when everything changed. He was strong, ambitious, a rising college athlete with eyes set on the national stage. His mornings started before dawn, training tirelessly, running until his legs trembled, chasing a dream that seemed just within reach. Until one night ended it all. A drunk driver ran a red light. The collision came like a hammer. Metal twisted. Glass shattered. Screams drowned in the wail of sirens. And then, silence. When Jared woke up, it was to a sterile ceiling, the dull beep of machines, and the cold truth: his right leg was shattered beyond repair. Metal rods were inserted. Months of surgeries followed. Then came the hardest part: learning to live with what he had lost. Football was gone. Scholarship gone. His identity as an athlete gone. The man responsible? A stranger named Carl Reynolds. Carl didn't even stay at the scene. He ran. It wasn't until days later that police caught him, still intoxicated, passed out in his car not far from the accident site. Jared watched from his hospital bed as the court case unfolded. Carl was sentenced to 4 years in prison. He never reached out. Never apologized. All Jared had was a lifetime of physical pain, and the haunting image of that night. The bitterness nearly consumed him. He watched his friends graduate. He watched other athletes become who he had dreamed of being. He felt invisible at every party, like a broken trophy left in a forgotten case. There were dark nights. Nights when he questioned why he survived. Why Carl got to live, while his life stood still. But somewhere in that darkness, Jared made a quiet decision. If he couldn't run, he'd walk beside others who still could. He went back to school, not to play, but to study physical therapy. Every stretch he had endured, every painful step, became a lesson. His pain wasn't just his anymore, it was fuel to help others heal. And so he did. 5 years later, Jared was working at a community rehabilitation center, helping veterans, accident victims, and kids with disabilities find strength in their own bodies again. He smiled often. Laughed more. He wasn't the same man who had once screamed into pillows and punched hospital walls. But then, one morning, the receptionist walked in with a clipboard. "Jared, you're getting a new patient today. Severe muscle atrophy from prison time. Chronic limp. He'll need full support." No problem. Jared had done this before. Until the door opened. And Carl stepped in. Thinner. Older. Shoulders hunched from guilt more than time. He didn't look like a monster. He looked like a man swallowed by shame. Their eyes met. Jared froze. His heart thundered. All the years between them collapsed into a single, electric moment. Carl's voice was barely a whisper. "I don't expect you to say anything. I don't deserve it." Silence filled the room. Then Jared took a slow step forward. Another. He stood face to face with the man who shattered his leg, his future, his spirit. And hugged him. "I forgave you a long time ago," Jared said. "Now let's help you walk again." For weeks, they worked together. Jared helped Carl stretch muscles that hadn't moved in years. Carl winced, stumbled, sweated through the pain. But he never complained. During breaks, they talked. At first, it was just about the exercises. Then, slowly, stories emerged. Carl shared about his youth, about a father who drank, and how the cycle seemed destined to repeat. About the night of the crash, which he barely remembered. How prison wasn't the punishment, living with what he'd done was. "Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the wreck," he said one day. "But the worst part? I thought I had killed your future. And maybe I did. But here you are, helping me stand. Jared listened. Not with pity, but with a quiet strength that came from having walked through fire. When Carl finally stood on his own, legs shaking, tears in his eyes, the entire staff clapped. But it wasn't just about walking. Carl was healing inside too. And then came the moment that surprised everyone. Carl asked Jared for help with something bigger. I don't want to forget what I did. I want to redeem it. Together, they launched a small outreach program. They started visiting schools, Carl sharing his story, Jared speaking about recovery. Their story spread fast. News channels picked it up. Podcasts. Local media. Carl poured his efforts into starting a nonprofit. Second Chances focused on supporting DUI victims, offering therapy, and providing education on addiction and reckless driving. He raised funds. He organized community events. And every time someone asked why, he simply said, "Because someone I hurt gave me a second chance." Today, Jared still works at the rehab center. He still walks with a slight limp. But he walks with purpose. Carl? He's now 10 years sober. Married. A father of 2. He runs his nonprofit full-time and still volunteers at the very same clinic where he first met Jared again. Life lesson? Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing peace over pain and giving someone else the chance to be better. Jared could have stayed angry. The world would have understood. But he chose something rare. Something radical. Grace. And that one choice changed 2 lives forever. Speech balloon: would you be able to forgive someone who hurt you deeply? Tell us in the comments. Thumbs up, like, share, and subscribe to Minutes of Moral, because sometimes the smallest act of mercy can create the loudest echo of change.